Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very briefly, I'm Will Freeman. I'm a freelance game journalist, copywriter, mock reviewer, and I'm senior content specialist over at Raptor PR. And most importantly for now, I'm your host for today's webinar. We're really lucky to be joined by a kind of crack panel of experts to discuss essentially the state of PC game distribution today, as that entire ecosystem kind of really enters a period of change for many reasons, perhaps some of which we'll explore. So we're going to look at what's going on right now, the changes and kind of trends and factors to consider right now in the PC game distribution space, and kind of what that means for success and the future and kind of the challenges and opportunities. Before I introduce our guests, which we will get round to, just a little bit of context. Rokky, we're going to hear more about them. Rokky, which connects publishers and stores from all over the world via a single global distribution platform, recently commissioned a study, the state of PC distribution. It surveyed 306 game industry executives, and the resulting white paper, which we'll be sure to give you more information on, the resulting white paper, it kind of analyses everything from Steam's continued dominance of PC game distribution to the kind of realities and new opportunities of the wider ecosystem. And that the findings from that study, that white paper, will kind of use as prompts for today's conversation. Right, we've already heard enough from me, and I'm sure you're eager to dive into kind of the learnings. So we'll start with quick introductions. And it seems sensible, Vadim, that we start with you. So it'd be great to hear about kind of who you are and what you do in games.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Vadim Andreev. I'm CEO and co-founder of Rokky. I've been in the gaming industry for more than 15 years now. When we started this business, in the industry in our region was built mostly around torrents and free pirated version of games, and we wanted to change that. We wanted to help people to buy games and make sure that developers can get paid for their games. And since that time, of course, market has changed significantly, especially with the rise of Steam. And so they make a great contribution to the market nowadays. So during these 15 years, we also developed the cloud gaming service, PlayKey, which was acquired by a big strategic company a few years ago. And right now we are focusing on digital distribution and trying to help publishers and developers to find the alternative ways to promote their games and get additional revenue from digital sales. So that's a bit about me and our company. And for me personally, I play games since my childhood. I started to play to learn how to use the mouse of my PC by playing Doom. So and nowadays I play on different platforms, PC, PlayStation, and the Steam Deck.
Great. And of course, always great to hear someone is still finding a little bit of time to actually play games. Charlie, over to you next. You've done a few things in your career, as I understand it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm Charlie Andre-Barrett. I'm the founder and owner of Digital Game Factory, which I launched very recently. I've been in the industry 25 years, pretty much on the publisher side. So had pretty long stints at Bethesda, Ubisoft, THQ, and I've worked for so they're AAA. I've worked for AA, such as Team 17 and Curve Games, and I've also worked in the indie scene as well. Ultimately, I've been in the digital games industry from the very start, 25 years ago. And for people who remember the modems and the real networks and Q Club and all this other stuff. So I've kind of seen it from its birth to where it is now. It's exciting times at the moment, and respect to Rokky commissioning this report, because there's lots of really key questions to be answered, to advice. And again, I'm looking forward to the call. A little known fact about me, I'm a trained chef. So figure that one out. I got into the industry by mistake, and I've never looked back. If anyone wants any recipes, let me know.
Right.
Cheers.
If we've got some time at the end, we'll go into some of them. Ilya, it would be great to hear about your kind of role in games and how you find yourself where you are working now.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Ilya. I'm the one that is taking care about the whole process of distribution for the meta publishing label, and also I'm working as a senior producer for the Owlcat games. I've started back in 2008. Can't even count how many years it was. From the casual games, we released more than 375 games to the market, casual one, and have passed all the processes that were changing the industry to the one that it is right now. So happy to be here and probably help somehow with the answers, or at least opinion.
Fantastic. So yeah, we'll dive straight into the conversation. Great to have that kind of really complementary spread of experiences and expertise. I almost feel this question could be the one question that is the whole conversation, a tricky one to answer succinctly. But just to set some context, I guess particularly consumers kind of think as Steam and maybe Epic Game Store, but Steam as being what PC game distribution is, and perhaps the industry itself is even kind of, as Steam is perhaps considered a huge part of PC game distribution, and of course it's the leading one, but as I understand it, the ecosystem is broader than that and growing broader. Vadim, would you be able to frame kind of, I was going to say, can you describe the PC gaming ecosystem? That's a huge question, but just in brief.
Yeah, in two words.
What does that ecosystem look like today?
Yeah, so in two words, I would say the PC gaming industry, when developers and publishers think about PC gaming industry, they think first of all about Steam. And of course, that is the case. And many of developers and many of publishers, they think that if they just create a great game, it will somehow go viral and people will play it, will find it, and everything will be great by itself. But in the reality, it's not. And the market is much bigger than just only Steam. There's also Epic, there's also GOG, Fanatical, Humble, and lots of regional platforms as well. And some of the stores are small, some of them are big, but altogether, all of those channels can bring more than 20% of PC game sales, of additional revenue. And so that's the real opportunity, I think. You should just choose the right partner to work with, and you can earn up to 20% of additional revenue. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, just as one more thing to set context, and I'll stay with you, of course, for this one, Vadim, just be interesting to hear about the study you created, why you did, kind of its aims and intentions.
So when we created this study, so we wanted to truly understand how developers and publishers feel about the distribution. Because so there's always a myth on the market that the Steam is the only one platform which you can trust. And lots of publishers, lots of developers, they just don't consider other stores and other distribution channels as the market. Maybe they do not know about this. Maybe they just they see any risks, they cannot control it, and they're afraid of this. So we wanted to test this on the real data. And we wanted to see how actually real developers and publishers and indie developers, they think about this, how they feel about this, and how can we help them to grow their revenue. So we talked with different teams, with big publishers, with smaller, with indie, and we tried to collect the opinion from the whole industry, not only from one part of the ecosystem, but from the whole industry. So our goal is to collect all the opinions, all the meanings, and understand how we can help the industry to get more revenue, to get more additional revenue.
Right, fantastic. And I mean, obviously, kind of aim and intention that benefits the whole industry. So, I'll start with one of the kind of key findings, or what felt like a significant finding to me when I was looking at the report, was finding that 72% of game developers believe Steam operates as a monopoly. And I'll put this to the whole panel. Are they right? And what does that mean for the games industry? Is it a problem that Steam's a monopoly? Charlie, did you want to? You were guilty of slightly reacting then, so I'm going to throw that over to you.
But yeah, you know my body language, right? So yeah, I do have an opinion on this. I think for the audience here, let's just remind how Steam got started in the first place, right? These are the guys that back in the day, PC gaming was on a downer. Okay, people weren't playing PC games. Piracy was high.
Yeah.
They weren't playing games because it was difficult back in the day that you had to download certain drivers and sound cards and 3DFX and Nvidia card and AMD and all of these things that just made PC gaming kind of difficult to play, right? So Steam come out with this client. They back the format. It's easy to play. You're logging into a client. You're playing the games. And back in the early days, it was a lot simpler. Okay, admittedly, because you put a PC game on, there weren't as many games as there are now. And one of the issues, obviously, they're always going to complain about is, am I getting my eyeballs on Steam? Am I getting coverage? And all of this other stuff. But Steam is much bigger than just a retail store. It's a client-based service that judges its, from my point of view, judges their performance on concurrent players. Right now, that's really important. We're in the game of gamers playing games, right? Not making a quick fast buck. And Steam doesn't make the quick fast buck. It supports developers, large or small. It gives them a platform to make good revenue. The analytics in it is very good. It gives really good data on what drivers you're using. Developers can get a lot from Steam, and that's why they're the dominant share, because they've earned the right. Now,
right, yeah.
there's lots of antitrust going out there, and I've been sitting on all sorts of stuff. And my view on this is that, well, they've earned that market share, and they've been doing it a long time. So, listen, I think you need to embrace the Steam ecosystem. However, the big one here is every developer or publisher should have a very lean, robust digital roadmap on who they work with and control the narrative of how games are sold and played. And that's the most important thing. We can talk all day. So, in answer to your question, what does it mean for the game industry? Steam's not going away. Embrace it. Okay, they're a good outfit, but there are other people you should be dealing with. I know we'll probably come on to that later, but yeah, I find that just embrace the Steam eco. It's a resource for everybody. They are really cool people. They have a very distinct way of working. The other thing is to note as well is that they're obviously a global business. They have region locked keys. Embrace that. This one fits all doesn't. It's not. We're in the games industry. We're in a creative industry. So Steam offers so much resource. My advice to everyone is, yeah, they're dominant for a reason, but embrace it and work with people like Rokky and the GOGs and Epic Game Store, to name a few. But Rokky offers a great solution for distribution and controls the narrative using Steam keys.
I remember probably as a trade journalist 18, 20 years ago, I was probably writing some news stories about the conversation was PC gaming is dead, piracy and huge titles were selling in small numbers. And yet here we are, and I guess Steam's driven that. But can we look beyond Steam and stay with Steam at the same time, so to speak? Vadim, maybe I'll ask you that one.
Yeah, why not? So, of course, Steam made the great contribution on the market, and it gives the opportunity to everyone, to every single developer to develop the game, publish on Steam, and launch it globally. So this is really important nowadays. And if you can launch the game all over the world on each languages, on every language and in each country, so this is great. And you can reach customers all over the world. This is really great. But of course, I agree with you. So you can always reach customers outside of Steam. So as I said, from 10 to 20% of revenue you can get outside of Steam. outside of Steam and Epic. So this is big numbers. If a game earns like millions or even thousands, so that's a significant number.
And it was interesting. The report also found 53% of respondents of those game industry execs expressed concern about their level of reliance on Steam. But what are the concerns of relying on Steam? Ilya, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's like a concern connected with exactly like Steam, but with probably everybody that holds this share of the overall market, I would say. So what would happen if something goes wrong with this exact platform? So definitely Steam is super reliable, so they're super responsive and everything is great. But again, so we see how the rules are changing there in Europe, for example, how things are changing in Asia. So you never know what will be blocked next day or what will going to be changed. So you always need to have something at least to provide your customers with the same service. So because Steam provides you a possibility to provide your service for the end customers. And I actually look at Steam more as on some kind of a social network with the possibility to purchase games than just a platform for purchasing the games, something like that. And if you look at these angles, so it's pretty okay to have more platforms that you're working with without having any issues with Steam. And if something happens with one, it doesn't necessarily mean then the others will be blocked or closed or whatever happens. And in this case, you at least have got a chance to save your customer base, at least on the platforms that will be allowed there. We could look at the markets like China, that is a pretty closed market, right? So even Steam there is still some kind of a gray zone. But they have got the local stores like WePlay, like the one from the Natties. And definitely it's not easy to get there. But if you weren't going to try, you will never know what you could get up there. And if something happens with the platforms in this region, you could still continue supporting your customer base through the other platforms that will still exist in this market. And that's what I call the reliance here and why people are afraid of something. We could look at the regulations from the European Union for the mobile stores, right? Mm-hmm. And the big fight between like Epic and Apple and Google, whatever, name a few, right? So what if something happens with like something same happens with the PC market? Mm-hmm. You never know. So it can happen with the console market simply because like, hey, they're limited to their own device, but Steam is not limited to the devices. And everything could happen.
Yeah, really, really, really interesting stuff. Yeah, Charlie, either do you have any thoughts on kind of to extend what Ilya said, or just any other thoughts on kind of, I guess, yeah, if concerns about relying on Steam are well founded, or what the concerns might be?
Yeah, I just wanted just to put it out that, I mean, Steam's the core business, but of course there's additional business to be had. And I've over the last 25 years that I've been dealing with the business is that it's starting to emerge that what's required is a digital roadmap distribution that's number one, lean, trusted. You need to control the narrative, and this is publisher side, developer side, right? So making sure your games are played, they're not just secondhand traded, they're not hundreds of thousands of keys out in the ecosystem, but no one's playing them, and all they're doing is trading off load pricing, bringing down the value of the IP, the price point. So you want to control that narrative, and you want to work with partners that use the region locks, the local pricing, and not take a global key, price it in, let's just say, any Nordic country, and don't pay that, and then guess what? They're making extra revenue. But the publisher and the developer are not seeing that extra revenue, right? So we all know it goes on. So region locks, that's why the value of Steam and Steam keys is that, you can do local pricing in the local territory and keep them locked for that. Obviously, you've got people who are not the official distributors that are buying keys. We call them the key scratchers, where they're taking, historically when there was a box business, they'll take the key from the box, scratch it, and they'll essentially be this massive warehouse of individuals buying keys, putting them on a spreadsheet, and then trading them the Kingwin, the G2A, all of that other stuff. And they're advertising, yes, we've got these wonderful global keys. Guess what? When they buy the key, it's region locked to just Europe, right? Guess who has to call the brunt? It's the customer services of the IP or the developer that gets the brunt. I bought this global key from wherever they claimed, and they're not using the right pack shots, the product description, and that's not good for the industry. So, but what we're seeing now is a greater control and narrative of a digital roadmap. So I think going forward is a lot of people are starting to work out who to work with and who not to work with, right? And we are talking about a maximum of 20% extra to the business. Sometimes less than that, depending on the genre of the title, the PC, and whatever. Steam are always going to be dominant. You've got to work with trusted, lean, control the narrative partners. And then the other thing for the future to think about is crossplay. Now we're seeing a lot of games that are going to go crossplay, not just on the first parties, but cloud. Now cloud's available on whatever format, and you can see Ilya's comment was absolutely a valid one. What if something goes wrong in a certain territory? Well, Microsoft and whoever are offering cloud services across all devices, and that's gonna grow. The cost of running cloud services is very expensive, and there's not many companies that can properly go. I mean, we look at Google Stadia, great concept, but the reality is that was just a money pit, and that's a real shame. But crossplay and iOS with PC, first parties, cloud, Nintendo, whatever. So I think going forward as an industry, that gamers will demand that. Okay, this won't be a luxury. The gamers, you look at Fortnite, for example, how many cross promotions and Roblox, these are all stuff that my daughter's in all the time. And I take notice of 16-year-olds because the one thing I know about this generation is they have no patience. They want instant play straight away. I don't want to see a fancy video, intro video. I'm not interested. I want to go straight to gameplay. And if you don't give it to them, they won't play it. I think Roblox has taken Fortnite. Between the two, are taking over the world. But there is crossplay going forward. So I think for me, there are so many positives in the industry right now. And I think people need to keep up. People need to sit back and think about what's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Yeah. The old ways of doing things are a bit like dinosaurs, right? I think we all know it. Some people want to hold on to a traditional business model. Oh, I've been dealing with this company for years. Now, I'm not talking about Steam. I'm talking about other things.
Generally, yeah.
Generally, and think, well, hang on, what value? I'd always question whenever I, work with my consultant partners. I always question, right, how much money are you making from that partner? Right, is it growing? And sometimes the answer is they're making hardly any money and it's decreasing. So why are you dealing with them? Okay, and think about your product. Think about how you want to be perceived. I think why Rokky for me stands out. It's not just about distribution. They have owned and operated sites as well. Okay, so it's a B2C, which sets them very different from competitors, but also they've got great back end. Ilya, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but to have real-time sales data, which you can log into and know where your keys are, when they're being sold, at what price point, if there's any red flags, you can, having that control is one of the most important things. Data have always been the sexy word. It's not the nerd in the corner who's the bean counter and what have you. Insights and people are them, and community managers are the rock stars of our industry right now. Dealing with partners that have real time, knowing where your keys are, controlling the narrative, lean, trusted. Rokky ticks all the boxes. Okay, from my experience.
Yeah. Something, and we'll definitely return to that. I want to, something you touched on there at the beginning was the kind of the changes and maturing of the kind of marketplace beyond Steam. I'd love to dive into that. Before I do, I just wondered, Vadim, as someone who particularly knows this space, just to return to that point of kind of the concerns some developers have about over-reliance on Steam. Are there any other concerns we kind of haven't touched on? Any other things to consider in terms of over-reliance on a single platform?
So I think there are lots of concerns, not only about Steam, about the space, the digital distribution space as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll discuss this a bit later on this webinar. But as for reliance on Steam, I think there are lots of companies, they try to remove this reliance on Steam. So lots of companies, they try to build something like Steam, say EA, Ubisoft, Rockstar, all of them, they tried to build their platform as well. And what we have in the moment, so all of them, they sell games through Steam, but through their platforms as well. So Steam makes a great contribution to the market. They have social network, they have value. Customers and gamers trust Steam. So of course there will be a reliance, but you need to consider other options as well. And not only distribution, but GOG as well, Epic Games, etc.
And let's dive into that thing Charlie brought up of kind of changes. That space used to be a very different one. But it'd be really interesting to hear. In fact, Vadim, I might stick with you for this one, or start with you for this one, is how that space has grown and changed in terms of, that we used to, there's e-stores and marketplaces. There's this more complicated space, and it's matured. So it'd be just great to hear a little bit about that journey from, what the, how to put it. It strikes me that the alternative PC distribution ecosystem is a kind of very different, more mature place than it used to be. So it would be great to hear about kind of the difference between e-stores and marketplaces, and also kind of how mature that space has been, how reliable or trustworthy it's become.
In our report, we found that there are about 38% of publishers who currently use distribution channels outside of Steam. So that's not a big amount of publishers. So we are addressing the rest 60%. We want to show them that this market is the great market, so you can control it. But answering your questions, so there are two types of stores: the digital stores, like we call it e-stores, and the marketplaces. So if we talk about e-stores, about digital stores, those stores works directly with publishers or distributors, and then they sell directly to the customer. With the marketplaces, they often works with, as Charlie said, with key scratchers. We also call them resellers. They work with resellers and sell to the customers as well. But the key difference is the control. You can control the digital store, but you cannot control the marketplace, because the marketplace is driven by resellers, and they compete on the price. The price can go down, so you cannot control the game, you cannot control the advertisement, the market, etc. So, but anyway, if we just combine the whole audience of marketplaces, so this significant number, that's about 30 to 40% of audience of Steam. So that's a really big number. And if you can control this, if you can control prices, if you can embrace the marketplace, so you can get a lot more revenue from them.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I've got some more stats. He said it was 48% of developers and publishers in the survey have distributed the Epic Games Store, 30% to marketplaces, 38% to e-stores such as Fanatical or Humble Bumble. So it feels like a real movement is under the way, and obviously through providers like Rokky, there's kind of more opportunity to reach these. There's also the grey market. I think there's a little misunderstanding around the grey market, but it is a threat. Does anyone want to dare to try and describe the grey market or define the grey market and the threat it presents, or doesn't?
I'll give a stab. So again, let's rewind. On publisher side, what the grey market meant to us was where you sold a retail product, a box product, in a certain territory, for that territory only. So let's just say the UK and Ireland, right? Obviously we can't do it because of Europe now and what have you, but let's just say back in the day you just sold into the UK and Ireland, and at a certain price in GDP, and then it appeared in another territory without the localization, without the age rating, and at a stupid cheap price. Okay, that was called the grey market, which we constantly battled with because everyone was trying to make a quick buck by secondary wholesaling, if you like, or it might even been back in the day retailer that wanted to put out the back of the door, I've got some stock, and it was all down to supply and demand, right? And this is retail products back in the day, right? Grey market for digital is where keys are turning up or products turning up where you really haven't got any control over. It's at the wrong price point. It just is the grey market, which no one likes from a publisher point of view and developer. We don't like that, but there's not much you can do to stop it. But you can control the narrative. So, like I said before, your digital roadmap being very lean, trusted. You know where your keys are going. You know your keys are being sold to gamers to play games, not to secondary wholesale for someone to make a quick buck. We all know it goes on, but one of the solutions there really would be have a really good digital roadmap. Know your partners, know where the keys are going, and control the narrative with region locks and price points and blah blah blah. So look, that for me is the grey market, and it's a constant battle. If I'm brutally honest with you, I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't know, Ilya, Vladimir, you've probably got a view on it, but that it is just it's getting better through digital than physical, because I remember what it was like back in the day when it was the Wild West. It really was. There was lots of people making millions and millions of pounds, getting extremely rich off the back of your IP and game, and they weren't even an official distributor. But now it's getting better, but it still exists.
I can remember an independent game shop selling copies of Tony Hawk out the back door, the first one, a few days before it came out. So I guess that was vaguely in that territory.
Sorry. That's another really good point. Sorry, breaking release dates. I mean, my God, you spend millions and millions in PR, marketing, development. The 11th of 11th used to be the Skyrim day, right? It used to be the day that we used to do stuff, and we're constantly people. Breaking street date, just even if it's 24 hours. And again, that was a massive thing. I don't think we see that too much, but we are seeing, when people leak the latest GTA trailer, and when I see that, I'm getting really, really sad because for the production people, they've spent millions and millions of pounds to build the hype, the release date, and then someone leaks it. And I just feel, I don't work for them, but I feel generally quite sad for the whole roadmap. There's reasons why you do things at certain times, and it's planned, and you try to execute it, and guess what? Someone leaks it. But then sometimes, anyway.
I could get distracted by many thoughts though. I'll just to return. So just to continue to talk about the grey market is now. I guess some developers and publishers' conceptions about what the grey market is might deter them or discourage them from going beyond Steam. How much of a threat is the grey market, and should we still embrace this new ecosystem?
So when you are fighting for money and try to sell as much as possible, for example, for a lower price, so expect that you're gonna get the consequences, right? And it could bring you to that situation even. When you leak too many keys, for example, for some exact GTA platform, right? So it's a good example where normal people could sell their keys, even though it is prohibited by Steam rules and every rules when you read the keys and activate them on Steam. So it is prohibited for you to resell the key, but normal people does it, and sometimes they get the keys somewhere for a lower price, but worldwide keys for all the regions, and could sell, for example, they could buy for the Chinese price and then resell it for the USD price, and they already get an advantage of it. But again, so all of us just need to be accurate and work only with the platforms that are trusted ones. So if you work with a platform where you can't control the key distribution, where you see a lot of leaks of the keys, where you see a lot of problems, so probably just simply don't work with this, right? Or there is an opposite side, right? If you just simply don't have an analytics there, or you can't actually look at the keys, or you can't see how many keys were sold from this exact platform. So in this case, you also might have troubles. Because without analytics, you can define what would be what is the final destination. We have had several of those actually through our experience. So in some cases, we were able to find where was the leak. And if you're working with a trusted platform like Rokky, for example, right? So you could definitely write them down and say, "Hey, Vadim, so we've got issues. So somebody's reselling your keys. Please stop it." And they could look at the system, and that's a question of, I don't know, minutes or hours. But if you're working with some platforms that don't have this service, don't have this support, so you might lose a lot of money and a lot of customers that were going to simply leak everything through the keys.
Yeah, so Vadim, we've heard some interesting things there, kind of the many different things the grey market can be. Is it a reason not to move beyond Steam, or how do you feel there are things we can do to kind of reduce the risk of the grey market when stepping out beyond Steam?
From my point of view, so the grey market, it's not about the place. It's more about the concept. And so you cannot just say this website, this retailer is the grey market. This one is not. Because that's the concept. And the grey market appears not because people are bad or not because some companies are bad, because there are gaps in the rules and the system of distribution. And as long those gaps exist, when there is no clear structure of proper regulations, not only on words, like proper regulations, the gray market fill in this gap. So we can't prevent this. So we just need to understand those gaps. We need to understand those gaps and try to fill those gaps with the rule. And when I talk about this rule, I'm not talking about like you are not allowed to sell there. So that's the rule on the word. So that this approach doesn't work. So we need to find the rule, the technical solution, when there is no gap for the gray market. So we need to fill in this gap. As a simple example, as Charlie and Ilya said, so start with region lock keys. So that's the easiest way. So the key reselling from one region to another region will not happen if you just simply region lock all the keys. So you can sell in China with the Chinese price. That's the cheapest price in the world for many of games. And just region lock those keys for China. That's enough. And so there are not so many gaps in this space. And if you can fill this gap, so the gray market will not do that. So you can just improve it and you can get more revenue from those sources. And I would say if you can fill all those gaps of the market, of the distribution, if you can fill this, so all of the marketplaces like G2A, Ineba, Kingwin, wherever, all of them can be legit because there are no gaps anymore and you can work with them and you can control them. They can give you free marketing support. And by the way, they have about 40% of the audience of Steam. So that's enough. That's a big number. And if you can control it, if you can embrace it, so you can get lots of revenue.
Yeah, and actually that's a perfect segue to the revenue question. So we've been talking about kind of 20% being an achievable figure, like a 20% revenue increase. I don't think anyone would complain about that, right? I wouldn't complain about that happening. The report found 75% of developers anticipate at least a 10% revenue uplift from using e-stores and marketplaces. So there's optimism. I guess that's encouraging. How can developers increase revenue? I get, obviously selling more games increases revenue, but how to get more revenue from this opportunity? I might throw that one back to you, actually, Vadim, to get us started.
So, of course, you can get from 10 to 20% of revenue. It depends on different limitations of Steam, etc. But in general, you can get 10% more just opening up your distribution channels. So you can just open this distribution and you can get more revenue. There are so many stores. Some of them are big ones, some of them small, some of them are regional stores, and some of them they provide extra discounts. Some of them they have loyalty programs or regional promotions. Let's say last week in China there was a big event, big holiday. So you can run. They can run this promotion for you, and players love those websites. Players love those platforms, and they keep buying games from them. So there is a huge collective audience, and this huge collective audience of digital distribution space gives you a massive opportunity to get more revenue. And in our case, it's Rokky. We do not only sell to stores, we also have access to hard to reach markets. Let's say that, like China. So Chinese market is a very closed market, and you cannot just simply go to the market because you don't know the language. At least you don't know the language. But we have people on the ground. We speak their language. We understand the culture. We know what happens there, and we can help you to get more revenue from that market. So yeah. You can just simply open up the distribution and you can get more revenue. So up to from 10% and more.
Ilya or Charlie, do you feel kind of optimistic about the revenue opportunity here and how realistic it is?
Absolutely. I think any publisher or developer wants to increase their return on investment. Okay, so if it's 10% of a market, I hate to chuck out words like this, but I think it's quite important. I think everyone just needs to work smart. It served me right in the last 25 years, and smart being specific, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and in a time frame. This industry is notoriously things slip, things move, and what have you. But keeping up with the times, I think if you work smart, have a very good digital roadmap, you work with the right partners, and those partners, again, Rokky, Vadim mentioned it earlier about giving technical solutions. I think that's really important, opening up local markets with not just region lock keys, but with community support, influencer support. Influencers in Chinese are very different from the ones in Germany. Influencers and communities managers are, you get a good one, that they're driving our business, and we've got to embrace that and feed them with content and stuff like that. So local marketing, really, really cool. Region lock keys and the local pricing go hand in hand. If you want to develop a market in India, for example, that's an up and coming area, but you translate their local pricing and it's going to flood the market with cheap keys. So you just have to have someone who can think global, and in a lean operation. And then finally, Ilya mentioned it, so important. It's just the analytics and data, real-time reporting. So you can understand what's going on with your product. Now, you have all of those things. There's distributors that can provide that, and there are distributors that cannot. I would suggest that the ones that cannot, don't deal with them. If you seriously want to grow your business. But the business is really running at a pace, and Rokky are definitely at the head of that race right now. They're not just a digital distribution platform; they're also a technology platform. They develop tech, and that's what resonates with me. And if partners want, because insights and analytics are so important, you can't underestimate that. And one publisher might want one thing, another publisher might want the other. So that's another good reason. But these guys they're pushing it. I mean, look. In answer to your question, yes, there is a opportunity to grow that 10% to 15, 20%. but you need to work with the right partners to achieve that goal.
Ilya, do you feel kind of optimistic about the revenue potential here? Have you kind of learnt anything about maximising this opportunity beyond Steam?
So I would say that it's not like beyond Steam, but it's definitely connected with Steam because we're selling Steam keys at the end, right?
Along with
the majority of us are selling Steam keys. So with this respect, definitely there's a lot of chances. There are a lot of chances that you could increase your revenue. Depends on you and how you deal with this, for sure. But just as Vadim told you just a few minutes ago, right? So we've got specific regions outside of these channels where this community is actually located. So, for example, for China, there are like Baidu. There is a different kind of a TikTok community, right? And they get their keys only from these channels. Well, simply because they trust or somehow they operate within this infrastructure. Because it's not like a standard portal where you get into and just simply buy a key. It's more like a marketplace, a social marketplace. They discuss games up there, they share their opinions up there, and they buy it only if they are sure that this or that game is cool, after like sharing some reviews or negotiations with their friends or somebody there in the community. So it means that they weren't gonna come to Steam and find this game there. They could find it there on this community. And it actually helps you from both sides. From one side, you sell a key, you get this revenue up there. From the other side, you also get newcomers that are coming to Steam, to your store page, wish list the game, or even could buy it up there, right? But again, so regional, local markets is something that is outside of the Steam infrastructure in general, because Steam is global. And these shops are really local. They know their audience a little bit better because they know what they prefer. Or you could get a channel that is selling some exact type of content, and that's their origin, right? So they're selling, I don't know, classic RPGs. And they sell only classic RPGs. So probably the community there will be bigger than the one searching on Steam, because there are, 18,500 games released per year, right? So try to find the game that you wish to play in your exact genre. Steam does a lot in this respect, but again, so local stores probably know this audience better, and maybe it could increase your sales within this region for this exact type of content that you're selling.
Fantastic. It really interestingly, it was 80% of those 306 games industry exec surveys, 80% of publishers and developer surveys expect these alternative channels or this wider spread of options to be part of their distribution mix within 5 years. Is that a realistic time frame? Perhaps it's too short term, perhaps it's even too long term, and they should be thinking about seizing it. More like, is now the time to strike, and how realistic is it to or embrace this kind of immediately or within 5 years? Vadim, I'll put this to you first of all.
I think that's realistic, and honestly, I hope it happens quite sooner than in 5 years. But anyway, I think that the more publishers realize the challenges of the market that can be solved, and the more publishers realize that all of these challenges can be turned into like opportunities, so the faster others will join. People usually like to say nobody wants to be the first one and nobody wants to be the last one. So so if the more publishers realize that all those risks of the distribution channels can be turned into opportunities, they realize the distribution can be safe, can be simple and transparent, the more publishers will join. So I hope this will get sooner than in 5 years.
I might actually put this to yourself next, Charlie. You've mentioned the term digital roadmap a few times, and I hope many, us on this call and many of our readers are aware of what a digital roadmap is, but because you've mentioned it a few times and it feels fitting in this question. So I'd just like to hear, Charlie, what your definition of a digital roadmap is, and kind of applying it to what I've just asked, how realistic it is to move immediately, wait and watch, that kind of thing. What is a digital roadmap, Charlie?
For me, from a publisher side, is it's basically your kind of Bible. It's kind of your go-to market. It's a part of a go-to-market plan. And within that digital roadmap, you're identifying who your distribution partners are. Are they global, wherever they are? And depending whether they're up there for your direct account, what are the key KPIs, key performance indicators?
Mm-hmm.
You've got your SWOT analysis, which will then bore out your commercial objectives. So you have your objectives, day one, month one, year end. I'm going to give the whole plot away here, so anyone watching this is whatever. But also within that, you've got your promotional calendar, so your key tentpole promotions, whether that's Jan Sale, Easter, summer, Black Friday, Christmas, your discounts, what you're doing with, and all of that other stuff. And then, of course, you layer in the marketing beat. So if a product's got DLCs, when are you launching them? It could be a Halloween beat. It could be whatever it is. And it all comes together in a digital roadmap. And what you do is you identify distribution as well. So you make sure that you're not competing. Everyone's got their own unique selling point, and keep it lean, right? Because you need to control your keys. You need to control your digital business. You need to trust your partners, right? And the great thing about digital is if something's not working, you turn the pipe off, right? Wasn't like that at retail. You could be doing the manufacture and what have you. But so digital roadmap for me is pretty much everything about your business, and everybody should have a robust one. And if you don't, slightly worrying, but they might call it something else. They might call it a business plan, or they might call it an account strategy. They could just call it a go-to-market plan. But for me, digital roadmap should embrace all of those things.
Thank you for giving away all the secrets to your success and industry success. We got it there, the formula for success. No, but I thought it was fitting to ask, because we're talking about kind of moving towards this opportunity, and it's so easy to throw out a term like digital roadmap and not pause to actually explore that, because we use the term so often. Ilya, do you have any thoughts on kind of when is the right time to seize this opportunity we're talking about?
If you're asking when is the right time, then you have already missed this time. So
right.
That's what I think. So you should get into this train as soon as possible, just to better understand how it works, better define like what kind of challenges you might experience through your go-to-market strategy, right? So the sooner you get into this, the better. That's what I think. But again, so think about everything that you do and analyze. So if this or that move, we're going to bring you advantage or disadvantage. Even if today this is a disadvantage, so what will going to happen tomorrow? So build a strategy around it, and everything will be good. Don't think that somebody will going to think for you or do the job for you. No. So all the shops around you, Rokky, they give you possibilities. They give you instruments. They give you the way to bring your titles to another market. Use it, but use it wisely.
Fantastic. And somehow we are already almost at the end of our time. So just as one kind of final quick question, you're welcome to answer this however you want. And I guess we'll try and make these brief. But just one more piece of advice or thought on getting the opportunity of this broader marketplace right. It'd be great to have a piece of advice from each of you on considerations or how to get this opportunity right. Vadim, I choose you.
As an advice, many developers are afraid of distribution. They don't really understand how it works. I want to give you advice to work with the right partner. So if you work with the right partner who understands this market and know how to manage it, so you'll be safe. And of course, try to understand how it works. And you do not to be blind. So if you are blind, you cannot see the whole gaps of the market. So feel free to contact us or other companies, other distributors, and ask them which are the ways to get into the space. And so from my point of view, so as Rokky, so you can always contact us and we can say what you should do to increase your revenue on distribution space. And if you already closed the distribution, or even if you had bad experience in the past with another partner, so no worries, come to us. We will say you what happened there, why it happened, and what to do to prevent this in the future. So choose the right partner, and so the distribution will be transparent and secure for you.
Fantastic. Ilya, do you have a last piece of advice or a consideration in terms of embracing this opportunity?
Yeah, act as soon as possible and choose, again, I'm going to repeat Vadim's words, so choose the right partners and start as soon as possible. In this case, you could get like benefits. Otherwise, you might lose a chance and somehow lose some profits.
Right. Fantastic. Charlie, you were doing eager nodding, so you're allowed to repeat what they said or back what they said or for something else.
I am 100%, 110% back both of them, what they're saying. But what I would say, and it's going to be no surprise here, guys, but have a smart roadmap, a digital roadmap, and most importantly, smile. We're in a wonderful industry. We entertain people. Embrace it all. It is all about the game. So yeah, just have a smart digital roadmap and smile and enjoy yourself, because we're very lucky to be in this industry.
Yep. It can be easy to forget that on a deadline or a stressful one, but we are indeed. And that's a lovely note to end it on. Vadim, Ilya, Charlie, thank you so much for your insight, for your time. Just to remind the viewers, at the time of recording, the State of PC Distribution Report is imminently to be published. By the time you're seeing this, it may well be out there. Depending on where you see this, it may be a link in the description or in the comments, or you can head to Rokky on LinkedIn. We'll certainly be sharing it there. So yeah, it's a real deep dive full of useful data to kind of kind of back some of the learnings from this and to kind of give you a more precise kind of data picture of this opportunity and how the industry is responding to it and feeling about it. So yeah, thank you to everyone for their attention and for joining us for this one. Thanks to our audience. Thanks again, Vadim, Ilya and Charlie. Thanks to everyone involved in pulling this together. And we shall leave you to get back to making and publishing excellent games. Thank you very much.